I don't normally make videos like this, but when I see so much nastiness coming from one single channel, I cannot keep my mouth shut any longer. So dear viewer, let me present my argument on why I believe My Haunted Hotel or My Haunted HQ, or maybe it's My Haunted Project, since they can't make up their mind on what they're going to call themselves, I'm just going to call them My Haunted Franchise.
Cheeky.
Are the real toxic ones. Hey, SEGways! I'm saying My Haunted Franchise are toxic, but really, most of the toxicity I can see is coming from one person, Danny Moss. But before I go any further, I have to stress everything in this video are my opinions and my opinions alone. About 2 or 3 weeks ago now, My Haunted Franchise uploaded a podcast episode to their YouTube channel where they were interviewed by a lady who seemed to quite obviously ask the three fellas their own hand-picked questions.
The hard-hitting paranormal podcast.
Hardly surprising, since when they introduce her to the video, below her name it reads admin and social media, which I can only assume is admin and social media for My Haunted Franchise. So the video wants to give the impression that this is a hard-hitting interview. But none of them are challenged in any kind of way with any difficult questions, because they're answering their own questions.
Something smells fishy.
A disproportionate amount of time to this short podcast is dedicated to slamming debunkers, which is fine, is pretty much the standard at this point for My Haunted Franchise. I'm not surprised they don't like debunkers, as most channels who don't like debunkers are usually the ones with something to hide. But after watching this podcast style episode, it sent me down a rabbit hole of some of the cringy, dirty tactics My Haunted Franchise or Danny Moss will go to in order to silence and discredit their critics, as well as attempt to control the narrative. So let's watch the trio at work in their podcast, which has about as much charm as James Corden.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the punchline. Go on. No, seriously, go on.
Okay.
No, go on.
But before I go any further, I've got to thank all of my wonderful members and patrons for your awesome support. I'm on the last week of my holiday, so this video might take a bit of a while to get out. But as soon as I'm back home, I will be back to doing the votes. Originally, I was going to make this video about the American side of My Haunted Franchise, and I may well still do a video on that, but those guys on the American side seem to be way nicer than the British lot. So anyway, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a member or a patron. The link is in the description.
Welcome to the My Haunted podcast.
The hard-hitting paranormal podcast where we discuss everything to do with the My Haunted Project. People come here, now probably about 2,000 people, have been here and have experienced something, whether or not it is paranormal, they have experienced something real.
Hot take from Brett here. People have experienced something real that may or may not be paranormal. What the hell does that even mean? But I've heard Danny reiterate this same talking point in many of his angry, ranty comments. I'm assuming it's Danny writing these comments under My Haunted Franchise anyway, since they sound very Danny-esque when I compare them to comments that I know for sure Danny has written. Anyway, let's read one of them now.
Side-Eye Guy and The Shape have completely embarrassed themselves, and everyone knows they targeted us to get views because they are fame seekers whilst getting it all so badly wrong, which we proved effortlessly.
Only thing embarrassing here is Danny accusing me of fame seeking off My Haunted Franchise. You guys may have more subs than me, but I get way more views than you guys. Hell, even if I combine the views I got from the 2 videos I already made of you guys before this one, combined that equals to about 32,000 views. Let's compare this to the views of a single video I uploaded that has done way better than a My Haunted Franchise video, like Mindseed, or Sam and Colby, or Selena Spooky Boo, or Ghost Adventures, or Twin Paranormal, or Mackie and Amanda, or The Paranormal Files, Hell, even Yasko. I could go on, but I'll stop here because I hate coming across like such an arrogant prick myself. But at least I am self-aware enough to know when to shut my mouth. The fact that Danny has such an overinflated ego is why I feel the need to put him and my Haunted franchise in their place. Let's get one thing clear here, guys. I am slumming it making this video on my Haunted franchise. I am making this video right now knowing full well I will get low views because you guys are not as relevant as you think you are.
You've embarrassed yourself right now by not getting your facts straight. But hey, let's just ignore the 1,000 eyewitnesses who've been here in person and believe a couple of attention seekers who hide in masks. Funny, isn't it, how we open our doors to absolutely everybody and not a single person who's ever been here has claimed we are fake. In fact, most of them have their own experiences. Get off our channel and don't come back with your utter drivel.
The way Danny ended that comment is very, very Danny Moss. So as I mentioned earlier, Danny covers the same point that Brett did earlier in the podcast.
People come here, now probably about 2,000 people have been here and have experienced something.
But Danny takes this claim even further. 1,000 people have attended the hotel and not one of them thought it was fake? How do you guys even know that? Do you ask every single guest? Do you lot ask your guests to fill out some kind of questionnaire? And is one of these questions, do you think we're fake? If I spent 175 quid minimum for a night at your attraction, I would honestly be reluctant to openly say that you pulled the wool over my eyes. This is like a confirmation bias. On a quick side note here, guys, if you're going to call me embarrassing, at very least, could you fix your website? I can't even see a drop-down option to how many people I want to select in my party to stay at your attraction. Anyway, I also might be reluctant to openly say your attraction is fake after staying there, since you guys are absolutely horrible to anybody who does not kiss your ass and is critical of you in any kind of way. I am not intimidated by you, but I have spoken to people who are outright intimidated by you because of the way you attack people after they question or are critical of your attraction. And honestly, I can't blame anyone who's intimidated by you guys.
Wankers.
And lastly, let's not forget that Brett thought I stayed in that bloody attraction. Hence, why I had to make that second video. So if my Haunted franchise has done any kind of market research for their guests, I will take those results with a pinch of salt.
I believe that this is the game-changing thing in the paranormal.
No, it's not.
There's a buzz about a new location. Can you give any details?
The location's, I'd say, 90% done.
I'm really not going to get sidetracked with the franchising aspect of their business plan, but bloody hell, come on now.
I wish I could come up with a clever enough hint. We did a few like Easter eggs in the Christmas. There's a new event, a new kind of venue coming.
Before you get any ideas, Brett, I haven't been there already.
Speaking of new members and the future, do you hope to influence the next generation of paranormal investigators?
The hard-hitting paranormal podcast.
The ego stroking that you guys are giving one another is absolutely ridiculous.
Are there any more plans for collaborations with any other paranormal teams?
Most definitely. But we've got to be really selective with who we let in.
Selective like doing an interview with Lainey and Ben? Only the most credible of channels, right?
People have reached out to us before who we don't feel like their channel's legit.
That's incredible.
Anybody who wants to come here and investigate can do. We are fussy about who we invite in to actually film under our production.
I mentioned in my hate comments video that I have absolutely no issue with any ghost hunters visiting my Haunted franchise, since it is a reported haunted building and their job is to investigate supposed haunted locations. But as far as me visiting that hotel, I've got absolutely no interest. And I'm sure my Haunted franchise will be thinking along the lines of, oh, typical side-eye guy, he's all talk and no action. But I'm going to be perfectly honest here, guys. I have absolutely no interest in spending time with people I don't like. I don't like Danny. I've got my issues with Brett as well, since he never apologized for his mistake in that second video I made on my haunted hotel. And next to the other two, my opinions on Harry is kind of small. But on this, I was actually invited to the hotel. My haunted franchise even offered to fly me from Australia to the UK to visit their hotel, which I have to admit is extremely generous. Almost a little too generous, I've got to say, but I'm not going to be a dick about it. I am grateful for that offer. For me personally, accepting that kind of money, which would be around 500 quid, for flights, is treading far too close to a paid endorsement. It's one thing, I suppose, if you're going to allow content creators free entry into your property, but it's quite another to spend that kind of money for their travel expenses. For me personally, I could never accept this kind of money because I think it would compromise my editorial integrity.
Total integrity.
But secondly, my wife has health issues, and being away from her when she has to look after two small kids would have been a bit too much for that length of time. So at the time, I politely declined the offer. And shortly after that, some of Danny's really nasty antics started to ramp up. Now that could be a coincidence, I don't really know. But on this, let's look into one of Danny's odd little ploys in his attempt to cast more shade on debunkers. The Haunted Hunts is Danny's solo paranormal investigation team, which is a very fitting name because Danny is a massive haunted hunt.
Got him!
So, a little while back, the Haunted Hunt made a post where they shared an article about how bad debunkers are. It's a very one-sided hit piece that I have absolutely no interest in reading out loud on my video. But here it is on the screen. By all means, go read it for yourself and give it a read if you've got nothing else better to do. The article was written by Steve Higgins, and it didn't take me very long to discover he wrote another article giving a glowing review of his time spent at my haunted franchise. He also clearly states in this article that he is friends with Danny Moss. Now, I have to stress, I can't prove this, but in my opinion, Danny has put Steve up to writing this hit piece. If you read the article, you'll discover that a lot of Steve's talking points can be seen in Danny's comments. As far as I'm concerned, Danny probably put Steve up to this. This is Danny's article, not Steve's. And in all honesty, I'm not even mad about it. I just find this whole thing really funny and desperate.
Pathetic.
Also, while I'm on Danny's Haunted Hunt page, I just have to share this little gem, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a very shallow attempt to try and control the narrative.
A message from the Haunted Hunts. Regarding the recent trend of these debunkers on YouTube,
Danny loves to use the bunny ears around the word debunkers. Maybe I'll start doing this whenever I refer to my haunted franchise.
As representatives of the paranormal field and community, and as representatives of Real Paranormal and supporters of the UK Paranormal Society, we absolutely stand against these debunker channels and the toxic communities they have created. This is not what the paranormal is about. And whilst we are fully against fake paranormal content, which unfortunately plagues platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, we believe these debunker channels are just as bad.
Danny is all for calling out fake paranormal content as long as you don't call him out. My haunted franchise boast about debunking others, but they cannot take it when it comes their way. Whether they think it's warranted criticism or not, maybe stop crying about it like a bunch of children and handle the criticism like grown adults.
Lies, manipulation, and narrative spins.
I'll get back to these narrative spins later in the video because Danny accuses me of this time and time again.
Targeting respected paranormal teams and shows simply for clicks and views are no different to those faking paranormal activity for clicks and views.
Respect is earned, Danny. The reason I did a video on you guys in the first place is how you insulted the Shape after he apologized for a debunk that he got wrong, and then you guys decided to label the whole debunking community as toxic, just like you're doing yet again right here in this comment. Why should anyone in the debunking community show you any kind of respect when, as far as I can see, you've done nothing to earn it? In fact, you've almost gone out of your way to do the exact opposite. This is yet another example of Danny's entitled point of view. Danny believes that just because he works for my haunted franchise, he should automatically be given respect.
We ask that all our followers boycott these debunker channels on YouTube who are causing such negativity and toxicity within the paranormal. If you are unaware of what we are talking about, then that's a good thing. Stay clear of these toxic channels and continue to watch what you enjoy with a rational and skeptical eye.
The ignorance to call anybody toxic when you are asking your followers to boycott others simply for the crime of offering their opinion is amazing to me. I have never asked any of my followers to boycott anybody. I would never ask any of you to boycott my haunted franchise. I don't even think any other debunker has asked their followers to boycott a channel. I mean, I could be wrong, but I really don't think that's happened. And also, while I'm on this, Danny doesn't even have the balls to be specific on the channels he wants his followers to boycott. He just says all debunkers. I'm pretty sure the only channels that Danny really has a problem with is myself and The Shape, since we're the ones who make the videos about my haunted franchise, at least on the UK side of things anyway. So Danny has asked his followers to boycott all debunkers. Many debunking channels have not even offered an opinion on my haunted franchise. So Danny is more than happy to try and hurt those channels that have never made a video or offered their opinion on my haunted franchise. Danny, your insecurities have exposed you for being the toxic person that you really are here.
If we put 1 foot out of line, we'll get pounced on. People love to do that.
Danny, stop playing the victim. You've brought this all on yourself. I had no interest in making another video on you guys, but you kept poking and prodding at debunkers. You guys are in such dire need of proper PR guidance, it's ridiculous.
How do you feel about debunkers wanting to come to My Haunted Hotel?
Come along.
Oh yes, I feel so welcome after Danny asked his fans to boycott me.
We are debunkers. In fact, debunking the paranormal is what I spend 95% of my time doing here.
So shouldn't you be having an open and honest and mature dialogue with debunkers instead of hurling insults every chance you get? Okay. I have to admit that I'm not exactly innocent in all this. I've used my haunted franchise in many jokes in previous videos, so I'm not going to pretend that I haven't had a hand in any of this. But I do try and keep my comments within the realm of comedy. They are meant as jokes. Obviously, there's some truth behind it, but it still is meant to be a joke. Here are a couple of examples. We don't do haunted dolls in England, mate. Every single Englishman is above that silliness.
Why would you do anything in this room? Why have I always got to speak with you?
Yeah, that's a fully grown Englishman arguing with a children's doll.
Is this it? Is this it, Jeanette? Is this it? Don't you speak to me!
Yeah, fuck you, doll. You show that toy who's boss.
Another one.
Mistakes are fine, mate. I've made mistakes in my channel. I've addressed them. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is debunking a mistake as long as you put your hand up and say, yep, that was a mistake. Only assholes would still attack you after you put your hand up and admit you made a mistake and apologize for it.
Another one.
And wouldn't you believe it, the Haunted Manor is closed. Pretty much apparently closed for the rest of the year. If I was going to find a Grim Reaper anywhere, it was going to be here. But if you look really close into the mirrors, you can find Brett Jones working on his next project.
I got to admit, I'm pretty proud of that last one.
We are open to anybody, but when we talk about debunkers, most of these debunkers are not debunkers. They are fan reaction channels or reaction channels calling out blatantly, obviously fake content. Anybody in the world could do that. I could do that tomorrow. Gibbsy could do it. Dan Callahan could do it. Any of our guests can do that. They are reaction channels. They're not debunkers.
More of Danny's arrogance on display here. I'm assuming Danny is talking about me as well as The Shape. And while Danny might find some of the channels I have debunked obviously fake, and to be perfectly honest, I even say that in my videos, I think they're obviously fake. But then to go say that these channels should not even be looked at, or even attempt to debunk them, is just, well, arrogant. I've had so many people tell me that they used to watch Yasko or Mindseed, thinking they were legit and thanking me for exposing them. Danny, you are not the arbiter of what channels are worthy to be debunked. And I also have absolutely no interest in peacocking my debunking credentials here, especially not as some kind of retaliation to Danny's shallow comments. Regulars to my channel will know full well that my debunks speak for themselves. And finally on this point, what's wrong with being a reaction channel? Danny clearly means this as an insult, which I think yet again highlights his snobby arrogance. For me personally, I consider myself a comedy channel above all else. But then I would consider myself to be equal parts debunker and reaction channel. I'm perfectly happy uploading an out-and-out reaction video as long as it entertains my viewers. I like reacting to obviously hilarious bollocks. In fact, let's give that a go right now.
One final thing I want to talk to you about in this video, guys, is our very own design. And a lot of people have asked me about this famous Introvox device which we created a good year and a half ago now. And it took a very long time to actually develop this piece of equipment. But this is the Introvox device here.
This, Jen, is the internet.
Right. So Danny created his very own spirit box. No red flags there whatsoever. But remember, I'm just a simple reaction channel, so what do I know?
It's a fantastic device. The Introvox has brought us some of our best ever evidence.
Oh, I'm sure it has, Danny. I'm sure a device that you created has given you some of the best evidence you've ever witnessed. So the following clips are pretty wild. As far as I'm aware, this was all filmed before Danny joined My Haunted franchise. So, let's react to this evidence Danny captured.
You not like this? No? I am the
best ever evidence.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Tell me what it is.
demon!
It helps maintain the illusion.
Ask again.
Best ever evidence.
Oh my God!
Stop.
Best ever evidence.
A goat noise. I'm going to say that again. A goat noise.
Are you for real? Is he for real?
That children's doll made a goat noise that came through the spirit box. Most probably the same spirit box that Danny custom built. The gall for Danny to call anyone else embarrassing after watching this is nothing short of delusional. But this is the gift that keeps on giving.
Be gone!
Be gone!
Be gone!
Be gone!
Oh!
Hannah, you're right.
Best ever evidence.
Where's Danny? We're expected to believe this? Isn't it strange that when the Grace doll says, "There's Danny," it sounds like a Liverpudlian accent? And you know who else has a Liverpudlian accent? Danny! Now, I know Danny will say that this doll, or the person, or the demon that's supposed to be attached to this piece of plastic, was from Northern Wales, and many people in Northern Wales do have a Scouse accent, Scouse being Liverpool accent. And what a coincidence that the Grace doll would just so happen to have the same accent as Danny. In my opinion, this is just Danny's voice sped up. Sometimes when I make these videos, I just stop and listen to the stupid things I have to argue. I am right now seriously debating what accent a doll has. This whole thing is utterly ridiculous.
Insane, I tell you!
I would imagine most of the people watching this video haven't seen this side of Danny's paranormal content. I'm pretty sure everyone can guess what I think of this compelling ghost doll footage, but ultimately I'll leave this with you, dear viewer, on whether you think any of this is genuine.
Blatantly, obviously fake content. Anybody in the world could do that. They are reaction channels, they're not debunkers.
Sometimes I find being a simple reaction channel is all that's needed to debunk someone's stupid claims. You know, just like you said yourself earlier, Danny. Anyone can debunk this stuff. It doesn't take any skill whatsoever. Because when something's self-evidently fake, who needs to make the effort to debunk it?
One of the debunkers that targeted us got it so badly and embarrassingly wrong that how could he ever call himself a debunker?
Danny has learned nothing from all this. The Shape apologised for the bad debunk he made on My Haunted franchise, but Danny will not let it go. Even after my video where I highlighted how all three of them were acting like complete assholes about it. I'm going to share something here. Shortly after my first video I made on My Haunted franchise, Danny got in touch with me and asked to have a private chat. I agreed and we chatted for about 2 hours or so. I've not spoken to Danny privately since, nor do I wish to. In that call, I was actually very surprised to learn that Danny came across very well. He was polite and even a bit charming.
Interesting. Interesting.
I actually told Danny towards the end of the call that I was expecting not to like him, and I was pleasantly surprised to be wrong. He obviously wasn't happy with my video, but we were able to have a civil and rational discussion and disagree respectfully. But with some of his antics after the phone call, I can see that was all just a nice guy act. So I'm not going to go into too many details about what was said in that phone call because we did agree to make it private. But there was one thing that I do remember which did stand out to me. Danny said some things that made me realize that he has no idea how copyright and fair use works on YouTube. Soon after that phone call, My Haunted franchise tried to take down The Shape's video with a YouTube copyright claim. Thankfully, YouTube sided with The Shape because quite clearly the video fell under fair use, which is exactly what I was trying to explain to Danny in our phone call. But quite clearly, this is My Haunted franchise showing their true colors here. They just want to silence debunkers, and they will do whatever they can to do so. And on this, my second video I made on My Haunted franchise got ad restricted. There's a difference between ad restrictions and copyright claims, but the problem is when your video gets ad restricted, YouTube don't tell you who did it or why. But I did have the option to counter it and I won. Now I'm not saying anybody from My Haunted franchise did that. As I said before, YouTube don't tell me who did it, so I have absolutely no idea. I just thought it was interesting and worth bringing up.
If you're a debunker, a true debunker, you have to be 100% sure that what you're debunking is in fact false. So, you know, if me, Brett and Harry are sat in the control room and we debunk something and we get it wrong, we're gonna look like idiots.
I just want to add a little reminder about Brett getting it wrong when he said I had been to the hotel.
We're gonna look like idiots. We're gonna look like idiots. We're gonna look like idiots.
Oh, and just in case anyone was wondering, I never did get an apology about this. Of course, The Shape did apologise for his mistake. Just let that sink in for a minute.
So, the doors are open to anybody but reaction channels claiming that they are debunkers. They're not.
You guys contradict yourselves so much, it's crazy. Please invest in a proper PR team.
What really gets to me is the fact that when we first started, the first 6 to 12 months, we were the golden children of the paranormal. Everyone was buzzing. It was like, oh my God, this has never been done before. You guys are amazing.
What did he just say?
We were the golden children of the paranormal.
The cringe is strong with this one. Danny, you sound like a child right now.
And it took one video from one guy on the other side of the world to change that.
Bombastic side eye.
So clearly we're now talking about Psych Hotel, and the rest of the podcast they dedicate to debunking what I and others think Psych Hotel represents, which I want to stress is perfectly fine. I have said this time and time again that anyone I make a video about has every right to defend themselves. Of course they do. But Danny, yet again, goes about this the wrong way.
And the video that came out about us was completely false.
I'm going to pull away from this cherry-picked questioned podcast for a moment and focus on a completely different podcast called the Paranormal Monkey Podcast. By the way, go check out Justin, who's the host of the Paranormal Monkey Podcast. He gets some really interesting and insightful interviews on the paranormal. He deserves way more subs, so please go give him some love and subscribe. So, Justin had Danny on his podcast, and wouldn't you know it, I was watching. I kept myself quiet because I had a sneaking suspicion suspicion at some point Danny would bring me up. And wouldn't you believe it? I was right. The rascal did bring me up.
Whilst I appreciate what the debunkers are doing, the debunkers now are becoming just as bad, because they are causing drama and they're labeling everybody as the same, and they're doing it for clicks and views now.
Clicks and views, everyone. Clicks and views. I swear to God, part of me thinks this whole obsession Danny and My Haunted franchise have with debunkers is so idiots like me make stupid videos like this that keeps them somewhat relevant. But anyway, labeling everyone the same for clicks and views. I've done many videos on ghost hunters and haunted property owners now, and many of them get the joke. I've done videos on exploring with Josh, and we met up and had a good laugh together. I did a video on Dawson Tola and Nightmare Nation, where we started on rocky terms, but then collaborated together on a paranormal investigation. And we're all friends now. We completely turned all of that around because nobody involved was toxic. I recently met up with Kristen Lee, who owns the Bel Air house, and we get along really well because she has a very good sense of humor, since I made fun of her in that very first Bel Air video I ever made. Not to mention the positive comments I've got back from other channels, and don't hold these kind of toxic grudges. If I was so toxic and into creating conflicts for clicks and views, then why do so many take the videos I make of them so much better than you, Danny? Maybe it's not me, maybe it's you.
And it's got to stop. Like, look, I've worked with Beardo. Beardo's been to My Haunted Hotel. He's been there twice. He's witnessed genuine weird stuff, and he's actively seen how much we debunk. Not got a problem with Beardo,
but
Side-Eye Guy,
Bombastic Side-Eye,
called out My Haunted Hotel and made up the most blatant bollocks I've ever seen.
I made up blatant bollocks. Keep that in mind. When it came to Psych Hotel, I showed all the receipts. If anyone thinks that I made anything up, go check the video out for yourself and make your own opinion. Not one thing I said was a lie.
Pulled up a thing from however many years ago, before the project even started, because Harry, the owner of a building, decided to host a Halloween attraction there one year, where it used zombie actors and scare actors. But he spun that to a narrative that it's an attraction that's now becoming another attraction.
So there's that narrative spin line from Danny again. This isn't the first time I've said this to Danny, but let's give it a go yet again. Welcome to YouTube. What you call narrative spinning, pretty much everyone else on YouTube would call an opinion. I'm more than happy for you to debunk the relevance or influence Psych Hotel had on My Haunted franchise. But in typical Danny fashion, he has to call me a liar in doing so. He couldn't just say I was wrong. I have to be a liar, of course. Because that's what Danny does. He continuously tries to discredit anyone who criticizes him.
But then the My Haunted Hotel and the My Haunted Project gets blasted with waves of abuse because one guy's made up a load of nonsense, spun a narrative, and everyone believes in it.
Maybe you guys should have been more open about your attraction's recent history from the very start. But I'll elaborate on this a little later.
So the debunkers, yeah, I'm all for the debunking and calling out the fake channels, but who are they doing a favour to?
Well, not you, that's for sure. Yet again, here's more of Danny saying he's all for debunking as long as he's not on the receiving end of it.
The people who can do themselves a favour is the people that watch this and believe it.
Yeah.
Like, just research yourself, but it's lazy. We live in a lazy society.
So anyway, at this point, as I mentioned earlier, Danny had no idea I was in the chat. So I decided to ask him a little question.
I'm not sure I was giving a personal attack. I just said that basically it was a blatant narrative spin that the hotel was an attraction because Harry and Brett did something called Psych Hotel years ago with zombie actors, and the effect that the channel has actually had from that narrative being spun is extremely disappointing. And as a debunker and someone who's meant to represent this field in a good way and a positive way, I thought it was a very, very careless thing to actually do, to spin that narrative when all we've ever done at the hotel and the My Haunted Project is try to put the paranormal into a much better, nicer place
Nicer place? Bloody hell, epic fail right there, fella. So can Danny or anyone from My Haunted Franchise please tell me, what did I lie about with Psych Hotel? As I said in my comment to Danny, you can say I'm wrong all you like. I've got no real issue with you thinking I'm wrong. But when you call me a liar, that's when I have a problem. So before I leave the good podcast and get back to the bullshit hand-picked questions podcast, Danny was also attacking me in the comment section of the Paranormal Monkey podcast video. Luckily, I was able to screenshot the comments because Danny asked Justin to delete this comment. Asked or demand, I don't really know. Justin pretty much told me as such in one of my live streams that I did. Justin, sorry to bring this up. I hope this doesn't get you in any kind of trouble, but please do not be scared by Danny. I know what he can be like, but just ignore him. So Danny is asking people to delete comments on their channel. Yet another example of Danny trying to control the narrative. He is having my comments deleted. But remember everyone, I'm the toxic one. I do not delete comments. I would certainly never ask anyone to delete a comment on their channel unless it was extremely offensive.
A narrative has been spawned.
A narrative has been spawned. A narrative has been spawned. A narrative has been spawned. A narrative.
Shut the fuck up! A narrative has been spawned and then other people jump on the bandwagon. I'm of the opinion you can't call somewhere fake unless you've been in person. But what does it for me is that you're not just calling us fake, you're calling everybody who's ever been to the hotel fake.
No, I'm saying you've misled them. Nice try though, Danny. Your weasel tactics know no boundaries.
Now, the annoying thing for me is that we've done something completely different than anyone's ever done. We put cameras everywhere to capture everything.
The Bel Air house was filming their haunted property way before My Haunted Franchise. Kristen told me as such in the interview I did with her.
I've been quite a big part of these false narrative stories that have been kind of perpetuated online unnecessarily.
I'm assuming he's talking about the second video I made on My Haunted Franchise. And if that's the case, then Brett, put on your big boy pants and tell the truth. It wasn't unnecessarily, it was because you lied about me visiting the hotel to discredit me. You either lied or you got it wrong, whatever. At that time, I had people DMing me accusing me of being a liar. So of course I'm going to respond to clear my name.
One of my other jobs has been in the past and sometimes is still currently is designing attractions and more specifically scare attractions.
Brett's job title of My Haunted Franchise is presenter and designer. Just keep that in mind.
And Halloween events and stuff like that. I used to work in a cafe at one point and no one's ever accused me of making a good coffee. If someone goes to a scare attraction, they see zombies or things kind of jumping out of dark corridors and things at them. That obviously that's what that is and that's what I do. I design attractions that are immersive theatre with actors.
I'll give Brett this. At least he's openly saying he was involved in Psych Hotel. Whenever Danny brings up Psych Hotel, he always conveniently leaves out that key piece of information. So what you're seeing on the screen here, there is absolutely no way I'm going to read out this dissertation of a rant comment left by Danny. Well, I'm assuming it's Danny anyway. But of course, he leaves out the key information that Brett was involved in Psych Hotel. But I appreciate right now that Brett is addressing the issue of Psych Hotel for the most part without getting nasty. Credit where credit is due here that Brett is addressing this all quite maturely.
I think it's worth addressing, and we obviously did a Halloween event here about 12 years ago called Psych Hotel, and it's actually on YouTube. You can actually find it. It's got about 50,000 views. It's not hidden.
Well, you say it's not hidden, but nobody knew about it. Hence why you've had so much negativity about it. And that's My Haunted Franchise's words, not mine. Also, as I showed in my first My Haunted Franchise video, when Brett did an interview with Beardo years ago, Beardo asked Brett how he got involved in My Haunted Franchise. And surprise, surprise, Brett doesn't bring up Psych Hotel, which is interesting since this seems to be the first time Brett and Harry ever worked together at Ye Old King's Head, aka My Haunted Franchise.
People have then said that this is now an attraction. I understand it to a degree where people have kind of drawn the two similarities. It's the same building.
Same set designer.
I've never seen an episode on a debunker saying that Antwerp Mansion's all fake.
Never heard of it. But the difference is, if they say they openly do scare attractions and it's on their website for all to see and book, then why would there be an issue? You guys swept Psychotel under the rug. That's the problem. That is the issue.
And if anyone ever wants to ask me more questions about my background, I actually won an award last year for the best concept in a scare attraction.
Yeah, that'll convince your critics that your involvement in My Haunted franchise is legit.
And it wasn't My Haunted Hotel, because it's not a scare attraction.
It's the fact that your area of expertise is creating a Victorian horror-themed scare attraction. And the UK side of My Haunted franchise is, in Brett's words, a budget of basically nothing turns this white-walled empty room into a Victorian museum of the macabre and the haunted. Another thing that I keep hearing about in Psychotel's defense is that it was just a one-time scare attraction. That is true. It was a one-time scare attraction. But that wasn't for the want of trying. It would have gone on for a second year if the ticket sales did well. The second year, they had to cancel Psychotel because it just didn't sell the tickets. So I have no doubt that if those ticket sales did well, Psychotel would have been happening time and time and time again. I mean, Brett even says he worked on Psychotel for 3 years in his LinkedIn page. The final question I want to ask with this whole Psychotel thing, why does My Haunted franchise even need to pay for Brett's services to redesign these rooms to look like a Victorian haunted attraction when it's not even a Victorian building? If Ye Old King's Head is haunted, then it's haunted. It shouldn't need to look haunted. When you are putting these aesthetics into the rooms, you are manipulating people on a psychological level to make them feel uncomfortable, to make them feel uneased, to make them feel scared. Why do you need to do any of those things if the place is actually haunted? Why can't the hauntings just speak for themselves?
Deep breath, deep breath, deep breath.
I'm going to leave this video here because I've ranted about these guys way too long. I really want to stress this. Please, everyone, do not give these guys any hate in the comments at all, because they will weaponize it. When all said and done, I have shown that Danny, the Haunted Hunt, got one of his blogger mates to write a hit piece article about how bad debunkers are. Danny asked his followers to boycott all debunking channels. He called me a liar when I clearly did not lie about anything regarding Psychotel. Danny demanded another channel to start deleting comments. My Haunted franchise attempted to copyright claim the shape. And after all of this, we are supposed to pay Danny and My Haunted franchise some kind of respect that they think they've earned.
Are you delusional? Do you suffer from a mental illness?
I'm sure I'll get some people unsubscribing me after watching this video, which in all honesty is absolutely perfectly fine. If anyone supports the kind of toxic behavior that Danny has outright shown, then cheerio. And with all that being said, please like and subscribe. Cheerio.